Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this PPMA session. I'm Claudia McClellan, an extended PPMA board member and wellbeing consultant at Essex County Council. I'm sure we'll have a few people joining the call, but we'll make a start. Just before I introduce today's speaker, I will run through some quick housekeeping. Please do keep your microphones muted unless you're asking a question. The session is being recorded today, but only the speaker will be shown in that recording. Please do put any questions or comments into the chat box as we go along. We're really pleased to welcome today's speaker, which is Nicola Orr, who is a Senior People and Culture Business Partner at Commercial Services Group. And the session's looking at what to think about when you are reviewing your employee value proposition, something I'm sure we're all thinking about in the current climate where we want to attract and retain talent and make sure that this aligns with our employee experience. So without any further ado, I will hand over to Nicola. Thank you.
Lovely, thank you, Claudia. Firstly, happy Friday. I appreciate it's a sunny day out there, so I hope some of you are walking in the sunshine whilst you're listening to this. My name is Nicola Orr. I'm Senior People and Culture Business Partner for Commercial Services Group, and I want to walk you through employee value proposition. I could have just put EVP as the title, but I didn't want to lead you into a false sense of security there. I can't say that we're experts in this area yet, but what we definitely do want to do is give ours a review. And whilst I've been looking into this, this is a summary of what I found. If we can have the next slide, please. Can we have the next slide, please?
Sorry, it was showing for me, but it's obviously not showing for you, so I'll try again.
No, thank you. I can't see the presentation. There you go. Yeah.
Can you see it now?
Yes.
Okay, good.
And I can just see the title slide.
Is that correct now?
Not for me. I don't know if it is for
showing me
others. So agenda is the next slide.
I'll just try doing it this way.
No worries.
Is that correct now?
Yeah, that's it. Perfect. Thank you.
All right.
So a short agenda today, because half an hour is not a lot of time, I realised as I deleted half my notes and revamped my slides. What is EVP? Why does it matter? What are the measurables and ideas for action? And I've included a handy infographic, which hopefully you'll take away from this. Next slide, please. Thank you. So there are a lot of definitions out of there, and out of the many definitions I found, this was my favourite one. You may already have spotted that this talks about employer value proposition, and my title is employee value proposition, but it highlights this first statement here and how the two are interchangeable. This definition is from Harvard Business Review, and the reference is in the bottom of the slide there. The give and the get works both ways. So if I come to work for you, what do I give as an employee, and what do I get back from you as an employer? Or what do you give as an employer, and what do you get back from your employees? So the first question there is, do you understand what this is in your business? What do you as the employer want from your employees, and what are you giving in return? The second point there, and actually the overall point, is considering who is this for. So thank you, Claudia, mentioned about attracting and retaining talent. So it's not just for prospective candidates out there, but feeding into your entire employee experience and your existing staff. So for the performance and behaviour, how do you publish your expectations for that on your careers page? As I was studying various companies and their EVP, I can't say that I've seen really great examples of this, but as HR professionals, we've all sat in those meetings where expectations are not quite aligned. And we've all seen new starters suddenly realise that this is not the job that was advertised. Usually that's when you get asked for a copy of your job description. But maybe I'm not seeing a lot of evidence of this because it's too wordy to go onto a web page. Maybe it's something that needs to be embedded into the recruitment process. So it's about thinking about what we say and aligning with what we do. For example, this could be through your company values. Are they a true representation of the culture of your organisation? Then moving on to reward, and maybe this is the most commonly discussed aspect of EVP, but looking at things like, do you publish your salary or your salary bands and job adverts? If not, why not? Professional development and career pathways. It's not just about going up in terms of up the ladder of promotion, but also sideways, gaining experience across the company, networking, knowledge sharing, getting involved and being passionate about what you do. How do you reward that and how do you recognise that? And therefore, as a byproduct, how can you demonstrate and measure that? The work-life balance. Figures from ONS in 2018 stated that almost 25% of the workforce was part-time. So do you appeal to the flexible workforce? Do you open conversations to show if you're relaxed or rigid about start times and finish times, and whether you work from home or the office or both? And then finally, onto a sense of belonging or purpose. Ultimately, the work that you do goes back to the public, shouting about the social value, linking it to community, and doing it for the greater good. For example, in commercial services, our Connect to Luton site shows a great example of the work they do in and for the local community. I also spotted a great example of that in Leicestershire County Council site too. If we can move on to the next slide, please. So why does it matter? Well, actually, the latest study shows that vacancies have fallen for the first time since COVID. However, if you look onto the next part, thank you, except in public admin and defence or human health and social work, because those vacancies have risen to a new record of nearly 221,000. If you move on to the next piece, thank you. I don't think I have to spend a lot of time convincing you that it's a competitive market out there. If you've recently recruited at all, then you'll understand what a difficult market it is right now in terms of attracting and retaining talent. On to the next slide, please. I wanted to include a couple of examples here of where I've seen typically on career pages, the look and feel of what can stand out there as part of the employee value proposition. This example of Connect to Hampshire, which is a contingent workforce of our joint venture, flexible working was something that stands out straight away. We know that's important to people there, and it's great to be able to open up the conversation by just posting it there and being visually representative. We move on to the next slide. This one's from Leicestershire County Council. I'm not just showing this because it's Gordon McFarlane's domain and he's the president of PPMA, but I was genuinely impressed with the careers page. It showed a voice and diversity, which was really visually appealing. This is the start of the page, and straight away it says 94% of our staff say that we're a good employer. What a great statistic, and great to pop it on there. Next slide, thank you. So this slide, I'm going to spend a little bit of time on. Firstly, because I've got a lot to say, but I have stripped it back. Secondly, because this is the one that I think demonstrates the links to your organisation. Now, I did think about popping a Venn diagram in here, but I've left it as a grid because you can make the connections. Each business is different, and what links in one organisation might not link through to our organisation, for example. So if I just pick out a few here. So for example, exit interviews. Who do you feed that back to? Typically, it goes back to managers. Does it also go back to talent and onboarding and follow it all the way through? Think about where the data goes to and what it feeds into. Looking at promotions or career development, or career pathways. At commercial services, for example, we recognised that it was really important to develop leadership skills. to enable succession planning and talent mapping. So we've developed several leadership programs internally and externally. We've got an exec development course, which helps nurture top talent. And we've launched this externally and developed an LGEL course, which is our local government executive leadership scheme. This looks at 3 main areas, including collaboration, resilience, and creativity, so non-technical skills. This is something that allows us to set up networks and cohorts across local government's future leaders. Retention, for example. I've got a question mark there, because what is it really showing us? It's a very traditional statistic, especially for HR to report. In 2019, a Forbes article reported that 70% of Gen Y are prepared to leave a job that does not meet their expectations. You may find that others are staying just because. So what are you actually trying to measure here with retention and staff turnover? If I pick out also total compensation, I know that sounds simple, but we may already show that, or we may already calculate that. But are you linking all of this together? Can you afford to add on gym membership, for example, if that's what staff really want? Are you reviewing that and responding to staff needs and market needs? And then intergenerational workforce, it's something I really wanted to get on there and highlight. I think baby boomers, for example, get a hard press or are completely ignored. In the same vein, Gen Ys get told they're entitled, and lots of generational boxing of the workforce. For example, it might not be a generational sense of loyalty that's keeping staff in your company. It might be because if they look on other job sites, they don't see a representation of themselves, and the Google slides don't seem too appealing to get down, or the beanbags don't seem too comfy to sit on. On the flip side, I think we need to look as well at how we integrate our intergenerational workforce. Because that's what we have, and that's what we will continue to have, certainly until I retire at the age of 87. I'm not saying that we create a separate EVP for each generation, but I do see a lot of EVP examples that are visually appealing to the younger generation, and all I'm saying is including some representation across the workforce. Marketing and social media includes online traffic as well. We created a beautiful booklet that we published online, but then when I looked into our click-through stats or how this led into job applications, for example, we haven't recorded it. And so that's something that we want to make sure it can all follow through, and we can track and we can measure how exactly everything's performing. Also Glassdoor, I did have a look on some websites around, some companies of attendees today to see if that was relevant, and it is. Even at our own Kent County Council, we've got a lot of Glassdoor traffic on there, and that's something that you can actively manage and be part of, and not just be passive in. ROI I deliberately left as the last piece because this slide was to show how interlinked, like I said, all of these pieces are, and there might be more. That's certainly not an exhaustive list. So really, before you can work out the RO, you really need to understand the I, the investment, and what it consists of. So if we move on to the next slide. Really, I wanted to give an action or a takeaway on what the this all sort of culminates in. Like I said, it's all very linked. How does it drive business performance? How does it link back to the employee experience? And I wanted to show a bit of a roadmap on how you can take that away and apply it to your companies. So taking it from a prospective candidate and then linking it. It could be any timeline there. For an example, I've put 18 months in. Looking at the involvement, who's doing what, who's owning it, looking at it as a project plan, and what does it feed into? What's the purpose here? What problem are you trying to fix? It needs to be right for your organisation. And then with the deliveries, what taking from the slide before, for example, or what stats you already measure, or what you might want to measure. How do you show that it's delivering impact? And then the investment, making sure it's responsive to business needs and market awareness. And if we just move on to my last slide, then I've shown how I've applied this across our business. So the involvement certainly would be across talent acquisition team, hiring managers, our team, the employee voice and a candidate voice, and also marketing and business experience. Our purpose is that we want to build a reputation and branding as part of something great and attract and retain top talent. For the delivery piece, we have an ATS system that we can monitor the traffic, we can look at referrals, we can look at survey scores and developing not just your annual survey, but the pulse surveys as well. What is it that you're trying to measure? And internal movement as well, I think really links in with the people potential and how you really track the impact and the value that you're adding there. And then lastly, with the investment, our company vision is to be recognised as the global leader in education and public sector procurement services. And we want to do this through the empowered workforce, the customer experience, commercial growth and social value. So how is it linking back to this? And how can we show the investment potential there? We had a recent great example actually with one of our employees led us to an awesome acquisition in our energy division. It wasn't his job, it wasn't expected. He made the suggestion and then he was part of the project team that led it to success. So that was an awesome example, of how we developed the potential, gave the voice there, and something that we really need to shout about as well. I'd like to thank you for your time today. And open up to any questions.
Hi Nicola, we don't have anything in the chat at the moment, but just to give people a few moments, I just wondered if you had any suggestions around how you can kind of make the EVP quite unique in terms of, obviously, in organisations that are quite similar, often the same things are kind of the selling points, aren't they? So I just wondered if you had any thoughts around that.
Yeah, I think especially the ones I've been looking into recently, you have a uniqueness around location sometimes. So there's some really good examples there where people talk about their community and what they're doing for their community. So what you link it back to can be unique. So you may be looking at the same areas, but what's the value, what's the purpose of that?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
Don't seem to have any other questions. Anyone got any thoughts about what you've heard? No, I think everyone's getting ready for the bank holiday weekend.
It's sunny outside, isn't it? Yeah.
Okay, so thank you, Nicola. Some really great thoughts and tips there. I think we'll bring it to an end unless we've got anything coming in, which I don't think we have. So please do join us for the next session around compassionate leadership with Michelle Hart. So that's on HRS One next Friday at the same time. Thank you very much.
Great, thank you.